schwächere Madrege, wie mit gestanden falsch Schwues. Right, also ich darf mir sagen. Und mit Seyata de Schmeier kann das recht sein, also. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Biddle. I saw that you sent me a message. I didn't listen to it yet. I apologize. It's been very hectic. Believe it or not, yesterday was not a day off for me with garbage fed. But I'll take a look at it in Mitzvah. Okay, what's going on? Does anybody want to say anything? As a hello, as a part of the Maimed, as a gesunte Zomer, ich weiß was. Anybody want to say anything? That sounds to me like a resounding negative. You know, my official line is that a yes or a no or a don't bother me? So, Mistame, it's a no. Okay, we're at the end of perek ches. We're at the end of perek ches. The last class we had was Wednesday. Right? Thursday was out of Yom Tov. The last class we had was Wednesday. And we read till the end of perek ches. And I told you that in Mitzvah Hashem after Shavuos, we're going to be starting perek tes. What's going on? In short terms, what's going on? I mean, there's a long term and there's a short term. There's a big picture and there's a small picture. In the short term, what's going on is that the Tzemach Tzedek quoted the Shoresh Mitzvas Hatefilla. Shoresh Mitzvas Hatefilla asked two questions, but he answered only one of them. Right? Shoresh Mitzvas Hatefilla asked two questions, but he answered only one of them. The two questions that he asked was, L'cheira, how is davening through the Shemis and the Sfidus not Hepech HaAchdus? And this question he answered it well. He gave a mashal of a king and a bunch of ministers. And of course, the Tzemach Tzedek went out of his way. Lahafshit hadvorim migashmi yusam, that people should not make chas v'shalom a mistake, that it's different people with different bechira and so on. So that question, the Shoresh Mitzvas Hatefilla asked and answered. He says whom he asked, the Don Yosef HaMakubal, and his answer. But then there was a second question. And this second question was attributed to a different Yid, whose name I think was Reb Shimshon. Reb Shimshon, yeah? Reb Shimshon de Kinun. And Reb Shimshon de Kinun asked a pashta kash. Afilu im tim tzalei, even if you're going to say that when a person is mechaven b'shem, it's not hepech ha'achdos, because it's kavanas to the ebishur is mislabish in this fetus, and not chas v'shalom to the midas themselves. But why bother? Why get into trouble? It's a good klotz kash. Or like the Maimed, which Chassidus quotes, the Rebbe quotes this Maimed all the time. Ani mispal l'da ze atinik. I dive into the mind of a child. And it's better off to be mispal l'da ze atinik. A klein kind davened. He means atzmo saints off. He doesn't understand any chochmes. And that's enough. And that's the kash. And this question that Tzemach Tzedek will now proceed to answer. Rabbi say we're on page Kuf Yud Ches. Please take out your Sforim. Page Kuf Yud Ches. It's the last 6 lines of perek ches. We're going to segue. We're going to read over the kasha one more time, and we're going to go into the teretz. Okay? So please follow me inside page Kuf Yud Ches. It is 6 lines and 5 words before the end of the perek. V'omlam, however. Good morning, Menachem, Meir Zev Shlita. It's nice to see you. V'omlam, however. Kushas Rivosh Zal, the Rivosh Shaila, which was the second Shaila of the Rivosh. And again, the way I understand it, it was the Shaila of Reb Shimshon de Kinun. He asked the question, and the Rivosh quoted him. What was the kasha? Mi machne sonde bekoze. What do you need it for? Was darf der kriegen eens? Halei tevle spal stam. It's so much better to daven stam. L'shem yizbarach the Rebbe B'chul. I want to tell you a scary story. You don't want to tell a scary story because the story is always good to tell. And there are common mices like this, you should know. This is from the Rabbeim, from Rabbi Paltiel. This mice is found in a sefer that's called Teira Semes. This is a total Maimer HaMuzgir, a total throw-off. A sefer called Teira Semes. Teira Semes is a Lubavitcher yeshiva that was founded by the Rebbe Rashab in Tafresh Hayim Beis in 1912. That means this year it's 108 years old. Teira Semes is the yeshiva which the Rabbeim were Mesa Nefesh for. They put a lot into Teira Semes. And they had a lot of Agmas Nefesh. Teira Semes didn't come easy. They had a lot of tzaras from the yeshiva's Teira Semes, which is in Yerushalayim. And the Rebbe, many years ago, appointed a Yid who has, Baruch Hashem Arichas Yom, his name is Abishia Yuzevich. He's for sure in his 90s. To be menal of this yeshiva, the Rebbe has incredible trust in him. And he's been running this yeshiva for many, many years. So 8 years ago, when they had the 100th anniversary of the founding of the yeshiva, they made a sefer called Teira Semes, the history of the yeshiva. Now, to be honest, and maybe I should be ashamed of myself, but this is the truth. Histories of yeshivas are rather boring. It's not my cup of tea. The history of yeshivas, what happened today, what happened tomorrow, what happened yesterday. But half the sefer, or a good portion of the sefer, is the history of a particular man. And that was incredibly interesting. Who is that man? That man is a big chassid by the name of Rabbi Paltiel Simchovich, who was one of the great Aroyes Shebechabura, one of the great giants of Hasidus of the Friedrich Rebbe, a Yid abal Yisurim Noiroyim Va'adidim, a Yid whose life was pure Gehenna on earth. He passed away less than 50. He was probably 44, 45 years old. He had 3 daughters, he had no sons. And unfortunately, he didn't have a lot of nachas from them. They were raised without a mother and they were raised without a father. He was with a great chap, a moedendike cup, and a moedendike heart, and a moedendike chassid, and a moedendike oived, and a moedendike makusha. He was the real deal. He was really the real deal. Rabbi Paltiel Simchovich. So who's going to make a biography of Rabbi Paltiel Simchovich? Sons he doesn't have. His daughters, I think some of his daughters may still be alive. They're not through. So they made the biography of Paltiel Simchovich in this Sefer Teira Semes. And that I read, and that's very interesting. And maybe it's not only interesting, but it's actually important. Anyway, in this Sefer, they have a very, very scary story. But it makes a point, which is made here. So I'm using it as an excuse to tell you the story. And the story was that Rabbi Paltiel married the daughter of his mashpia. Rabbi Paltiel had a mashpia. His name is Rabbi Zalman Havlin. Zalman Havlin was a very big chassid. But really was that big chassid. The Rebbe said about Rabbi Zalman Havlin, quote, "It is given afrei lecherid." The Rebbe knew him. Afrei lecherid. He died in 1935. Rabbi Zalman Havlin. Zalman Havlin was from the Choshev Tmimim. He was from the Yeshiva before Temchat Tmimim was started. He was in the first 10 Bocharim with which Yeshiva's Temchat Tmimim was started. And when the Rebbe made Teira Semes, he sent him with his mishpacha to Eretz Yisrael. At that time, they went to Chevron. They bought what was called, is still called today, Beis Romano. They started the yeshiva in Chevron, and then when World War I started, a very short time later, they were kicked out by the Ottoman Turks because it was competition. And they didn't go back for many, many years. When they returned to Eretz Yisrael, it was already after the price of Peites. So they relocated the yeshiva to Yerushalayim. A kid said, Rabbi Paltiel Simchovich was his makabel, was a chassid, a talmud of his. He was a real mashpia, Rabbi Zalman Havlin was. Rabbi Paltiel Simchovich was a real makabel. And Rabbi Zalman Havlin wanted Rabbi Paltiel Simchovich as his son-in-law. And for Rabbi Paltiel it was a covet that his mashpia, taking him for his daughter, was a covet. So he went into the Rebbe Rashab. And he asked the Rebbe Rashab for a bracha for the shidduch. This was in the Ayans, in the 1910s. And the Rebbe Rashab gave him a warm bracha. He walked out of the Rebbe Rashab. Who did he meet first? Or one of the first? The Friedrich Rebbe. So he went over to the Friedrich Rebbe excitedly, and he said to the Friedrich Rebbe, "I have a bracha from your father to marry the daughter of my mashpia." And the Friedrich Rebbe's answer was the weirdest answer you could imagine. The Friedrich Rebbe said to him, "Was darfst du das? What do you want it? Was darfst du das?" The exact same words we have here. Mi machne sonne bekolze. What do you need it for? It reminded me of the stories. I'm telling you the Sipur. It was the most shocking reaction of the Friedrich Rebbe. It was completely out of turn. Bottom line is, she didn't live 10 years with him. She died a young lady from an illness. And upon him, the Friedrich Rebbe was gesehen. And the way the story is told is that the Rebbe Rashab gave him a bracha for the shidduch, and he told the Friedrich Rebbe to talk him out of it. In other words, a Rebbe veistach devot v'chol beisi neman, who a Rebbe knows everything and is not allowed to reveal. So the Rebbe Nishma said he gave him a bracha for the shidduch, and the Friedrich Rebbe commented like, what do you need it for? At the time it made no sense, but when she died and left him with 3 little meidalach, which he raised himself, he understood in retrospect what the Friedrich Rebbe had said to him all those years earlier. But the Lashon was, vos darfst das. Here the Lashon is, mi machnes asane bekoze. It reminded me, this Lashon reminded me of that story. So the Vaila, I gave you a hamaisa hu ha'ikir. Now let's go back to Dreish v'kabel schas. Go back to the Maimer. Okay? Mi machnes asane bekoze. Who needs it? Why do you need to get into this business of kavanah b'shem? Halitev l'espal stam. We're better off davening stam. L'shem yisbar v'chol to Eibush tercholu. L'tzein alayim ilos ilos Hashem, the cause of all causes. Kameshu l'mayla mislap shusa b'sfiras at mute sfiras adayin, as the Eibush is above the 10 sfiras. And then the Rebbe says these words. The Rivosh says these words. V'hu yeideya. The Eibush himself is going to know be'ezeh derech yasham ha'mavukash. In what way he'll satisfy our request. Whether the Eibush should be mislabish in sfiras hachesed, according to this person's request. So the Rebbe says, who you're there. We talked a while ago about the Lashon of Pidyanis, that before the Rebbe, he used to write in the Pidyan, the Nusach, Ono la'ere rachem rabim alai, mimikeir ha'rachem v'chasodim amitim. So the Rebbe said, why are you giving the Friedrich Rebbe an address from where he should bring the bracha? Maybe he wants to go higher than Mokere Rachmim, Amitim. So the Rebbe said to take it out. So the Rebbe said the same thing. You're going to tell the Eibishter that he should give you mashpiyah through this midah? You talk to the Eibishter stam. Like the Lashon we had on the previous page. Ani mispal da zatinik, I daven like a kid, like a small child. Who needs it? So in other words, the second shaila is much edeler than the first shaila. Because it wasn't on the previous page. So where is it?
It's on the top of this page.
Oh, it's 4 lines on top of this page. Ani mispala l'da zeh hatinik. Right, thank you. Right, so the shaila isn't that there's a difficulty with being mischaven b'shem. Who needs it? You daven to the Eibishter like a pashta need. And the Eibishter will already know what to do. The Eibishter leim wissen was it on. And the Tzemach Tzedek says, he kusha limta b'lecher. It's really a difficult kash. Now, and remember, the Rivosh doesn't answer this question. This is a question that remains open-ended. In other words, in the Zman HaRishonim, there was a legitimate taina and svara, an argument that you should not, you shouldn't daven to the Sfiras, with the Kavanas. Not because the Kavanas are not true, but because it's just a complication. Be mispaler, l'da'azatinik, daven like a small child, and maybe do what he wants. So the Tzemach Tzedek has to answer this kash. Good morning, Rabbeinu Chaim Shalom Shlita. The Tzemach Tzedek has to answer this kash. Good morning, Sol Tzemach. Gray rectangle Shlita. The Tzemach Tzedek has an obligation to answer this question. Why? Because we don't hold like this, Rivash. We agree that you have to daven and be mechaven b'shem. And if you remember what we learned in the end of Perek Zayin, the union from lechaven b'shem has 2 reasons. Number 1, because Eibush is not going to answer our tefillas. And number 2, even if we're one of those special people that we have as chus gadol v'yotz, the Eibush is going to answer our tefillas, but the Eibush has a kavana. The Eibush kavana is shuv. And kavana for shuv is dafka through Eidos b'kelim. So, Take, we hold that Api Kabbalah you have to be mechaven b'shem. What do you do with the kasha from Reb Shimshon the Kinun Zal, which is brought in the Charles Mitzvas Hatefilla? Says the Rebbe, Layashiv Zeh, in order to answer this question, Tzarech lahavin yina halel. Let's talk about the halal. Shem shabchem le'yizbarech, we praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Today, in order lahamshech ayedei zamidis, to bring forward midas mehalem from a hidden state legil to a real state. The motive of the boys, I have to tell you. If you have the Sefer Derech Mitzvah, which I don't, I'm holding copies. If you look at the Sefer Derech Mitzvah in the Hoysofis, there's Mitzvahs Halal. I don't think in the original Derech Mitzvah they had that Maimer. They added it later, but I could be wrong. There's Mitzvahs Halal. And if you look at Mitzvahs Halal on the Hoysofis Derech Mitzvah, you'll see that it's extraordinarily long. It's a very, very long Maimer. When the Rebbe says over here Halal, he doesn't mean Mitzvahs Halal. Faket. Because the Chazal say, Kol ha'emer halal b'chol yem harei ze magadif. The Hallel that we say Rish Chodesh, and that we said Shavuos, and that we say Sukkot, and the first day is Pesach, and Chanukah is a higher inyan. When it says over here, inyan Hallel, he means Pashat to praise Hashem. And you need to understand that there's two concepts in praising Hashem. One is Hallel. Hallel is 6 kapitel Tehillim from Kuf Yud Gimel till Kuf Yud Ches, which you're not allowed to say every day. You're supposed to say on special occasions. And if you say it every day, Arezim Agadif, because according to Kabbalah, it's from higher than Ishtalshos. I don't want to get into it. But when it says over here, Hallel, it doesn't mean Mitzvahs Hallel. It means Inyan Hallel. That you have to praise the Eibishter every single day, right? The halacha is, in the 19 Berachas of Shmoneh Esrei, the first 3 are praise. The last 3 are thank you. And the middle 13 is asking Hashem for our needs. So there's a mitzvah to be Mesadeh Shvach of Shamokim, Mesapeh Shvach of Shamokim, to organize, to tell the story of the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kvayachal, right? There's a mitzvah that a person is supposed to praise the Mesapeh or Mesadeh Shvach of Shamokim every day. So the Hallel here, I'm just making this clear, is not Mitzvas Hallel, because Mitzvas Hallel, which you have in the surface of Seicha Derech Mitzvah, is a higher idea. Okay, now why do we say Hallel every day? In order to bring forward the Midas, may I Hallel from a hidden state Lagila to a revealed state. The Ilav came, because if we did not say Hallel, and we did not praise the Eibishter, Harilav Mikolina Midas Iu Cloud, the Eibish doesn't have any of our Midas. Okay? In other words, it has nothing to do with the Midas. And therefore, when you daven to the Eibishter Kvayachal, it's not going to be Nimshach at the Sfiras HaChesed, Vayedei HaHilul, and only when you praise him. Mislabish Behen Kvayachal does the Eibishter go down into the Sfiras V'chulu, and the Rebbe says that's why you have to say Kavana B'Shem. The Shimshon the Kinan Zal asks in the Shuvas Harivosh, Mi machnes esonu b'kol zeh, tevle espal stam. And the answer is, in plain words, you're going to daven stam, nothing is going to happen. The Eibush is not going to come down into the midas of the spheres, because there's a need to be mahalal or mishabeach, to praise the Eibishter. And if you don't praise him, nothing happens. Vaydei ha'hil, and after through the hilul, mislabish beheni, comes down into them v'chuli. And the Rebbe says, Hashem, the same is true also when you mention maybe it's Namen. Hashayach Sfira, which is connected to a particular midah and Sfira, mislabish ba kvayachal, the Eibishter comes into it. The Yumshach, and he's drawn down, but Kal, easier, Yesed, even more, Hamavukish, what one is asking, V'chuli, and so forth. And therefore, it's necessary to be Mechavan B'Shem, because there's an Indian of Halal, which is Mamshech, Deibishtet Brachas, and so on and so forth. Whatever Rabbi said, I want to tell you some stories. Tell me upon Maisis. And then I'm going to try, and Vimazak tie this into the Nidun, and we're going to begin the Sugya. Right? This, what we're learning, Tzemach Tzedek calls it the Sugya of Hilul. In the later Maimorim, the Rebbe's Maimorim, it's called the Sugya of Shvachim. Shevach. It's the same thing, it's just a difference in word. Here he calls it Hilul, we call it Shvachim, and maybe the reason that Rebbeim changed from the word Hilul to the word Shvachim is, like I mentioned before, to separate the mitzvah of Halal from the mitzvah of Shvachim. From the yin of Shvachim. Mitzvah of Halal is not allowed to do it every day. But Shvachim and to praise the Eibishter 3 or 4 or 5 times every single day. So let's start with the stories, okay? The first story, there's a Gemara in Masechta Tainis that supports this story, and I don't remember the Gemara. And it's an Avla, because I remember the Gemara, the story was that there was a group of Yidden who were farmers in the times of the Alter Rebbe. And there was a drought. There was no rain in the region where they lived in Russia. When there's no rain, nothing grows, right? If you guys know anything about American agriculture, in America they discovered a product that's called corn. Corn is the only food which will photosynthesize, it'll grow even if there's not enough water. It's a funny product. Corn can survive the toughest environments. And that's why corn has provided people with food when wheat failed and when rice failed, corn. But most foods, if there's no rain, there's not going to be any photosynthesis. The fruit is going to stop growing, and then eventually it's going to start dying. So they came to the Alter Rebbe for a bracha for rain, and the Alter Rebbe ignored them. Alter Rebbe didn't give it. He didn't respond. So they were very upset, because they understood from the Alter Rebbe's lack of response that there's not going to be rain. If there's not going to be rain, the crops are going to die, and they're literally going to starve. So when they walked out of the Alter Rebbe, you saw on their faces, moidendik agmas nefesh. They were very upset. The Tzemach Tzedek was a younger man. I mean, Tzemach Tzedek was all 22, and the Alter Rebbe was nostalgic. Yeah, he was a younger man. He sees them walk out. But Tzemach Tzedek was the Tzemach Tzedek. Yeah, old or young, he was the Tzemach Tzedek. He sees that the Yidden are ganzem to tumult mavulbu. So he goes over to them and says to them, what's going on? So they tell him, we went into the Rebbe and we asked him for a bracha for Geshem, and he's ignoring us, so we understand that we're not going to be Zeichel Geshem. So we're Poshet going to have no parnasa, so we're crying. So the Tzemach Tzedek said to this Chevre, do you have any money with you? Geld. Rublei. Geld. Said, sure, we have money. They brought money for the opinion from Alter Rebbe. Said, give me whatever you have. It was a substantial amount of money. Whatever it was, let's say it was 10 ruble. But in those days, it was a gehalt for a few chadash. It was a lot of money. He called over the Alter Rebbe's Mishoris, Alter Rebbe's Shamis. And he said to him, I am prepared to give you all of this money. And for him, this was a hamoy. He never saw so much money in his life. Mitatnai. The Tnai is that you are going to swear that you're going to do whatever I tell you. If you're nishban a sefer Torah, that you can do whatever I say, this money is yours. So this Yid made a cheshbon, what Tzemach Tzedek can do, is going to ask you to be able to have a Zara, yeah? Tzemach Tzedek. So he swore, they gave him the money, and the Tzemach Tzedek says, now, you have to go into the Alter Rebbe, and you have to say to the Alter Rebbe the following. If you're not a Rebbe, who gave you the right to take away the Geshmak and the Elam Hazeh from thousands of Jews? The famous Lashon. And if you are a Rebbe, why are you being such an achzer? Yidden are asking you for rain and you're not giving them. If you are a Rebbe, why are you being such an achzer? Why are you being so cruel that you don't want to give them a bracha for rain? So when the Mishoris heard Bameh Askinon, he says, no, let's be mataned. He should go into the Alter Rebbe and tell the Alter Rebbe he's an achzer. And the Tzemach Tzedek said, you swore, a shvua is a shvua, you swore, geh rein zum Rebbe, and hat die Kabrede nicht gehad. He went into the Alter Rebbe, and he said the pasuk. He said, if you're not a Rebbe, who gave you the right to deprive so many Jews of Geshmak of Elam Hazeh? And if you are a Rebbe, why are you such a nachzer? Yidden come you're asking for rain, why don't you give them rain? Alter Rebbe getracht, geschmeichelt, he thought, he smiled. He said there'll be rain. And as they were walking out, the Alter Rebbe muttered, half to himself, half to the Shamis, das ist Mistame Mendel's Arbeit. Das ist Mistame Mendel's Arbeit. The Alter Rebbe knew that Mendel was involved. Das ist Mistame Mendel's Arbeit. Anyway, so when they came out with the Besuda Teva, they were very happy. It was a Besuda Teva Mamish. But they said to the Tzemach Tzedek, well, how did you know that this was an eitzah to do it? And how did the Alter Rebbe know that das ist Mistame Mendel? So the Tzemach Tzedek said, it's a Gemara B'Fereshes. There's a Gemara Masechta Titus. I have the Svarim here. If it took 5 minutes, probably I could find the Mokra and the Steeper with the Daf and the Yomit. In the Gemara Masechta Titus, there was no rain, and they came to one of the Tanaim and Amiroyim, and they asked him, he should daven for rain, and he ignored them. So they went vaza him. They embarrassed him with the Bab Geshemt, and it rained. So the Tzemach Tzedek shot in the Gemara. You ask a Yid to daven for rain, he refuses, so you mevaz him, and it rains. So the Tzemach Tzedek said the word is way. Sometimes you have tzaddikim that they're in such a high madrege and they're avoid the protest, they're not shaykhs to gashmias. Like by Moshe Rabbeinu, it says im ayin. Moshe Rabbeinu is madrege of ayin, right? It's the chitas of next week. So he's able to give Yidden mon, but it's not to give Yidden slav, and that's you have to have the ayin skin. Sometimes you have a tzaddik, he's so far removed from this world, he can't bring it down by gashmias. So you have to bring him lower. When you bring him lower, then he can give a bracha, he says. One of the eitzes of bringing a tzaddik down from a higher level to a lower level is to be mevatishim. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, I knew this Gemara, and I figured that this at the Alter Rebbe, that the Zayd is not giving a bracha for Geshem, is because he has no shaykhs to it now. Where he is, there's no need for Geshem. So the Alter Rebbe has to be brought to a place where Geshem is Negeya. So by sending in this younger man, to give him Kayochel, Ashtikol Bitush, is given a. You see, this is a story. Now, you cannot say that this story is about praise. This story is about the opposite of praise. This is a story about Gnai. But it brings out the point that by tzaddikim, sometimes they have a koyach, and they're not going to actualize this koyach till somebody jostles them out of position. A sultan, you have to bring them out of the ma'amad matzev to a different ma'amad matzev as again. Let me see if I can find the source. I won't take long. This is called Eitzes Sipuri Chabad. B'chlal, it's good to have these svarim. They're very, very good.
Tainus of Daladam Day.
So it's in the Eitzes Sipurei Chabad. How did you find the story, the Gemara? How do you find the Gemara?
Search on Sefaria.
What do you search?
The words Asimitra.
Yeah, yeah. It's in the Sefer Eitzes Sipurei Chabad, Krach Tesvov, which is the Alter Rebbe Mibi Yeshua, page 62. This is the Meister mit Rapoppe. That he was gazing at Tainus and it didn't rain. So Rab Nachman hat mal reingesagt, Chol sho daite ve'oso mitra. It's a Gemara Mefereshes. Anyway, the bottom line is, and by the way, if you look on the next page, this story you have from Chitrik and from Notik and from Perlov and from Schusterman and from the story is talked about all the great. It's a emes and meise. There's 5 different Makedas for the story here. 5. Anyway, this is the story. The Gemara is Daf Mem Chavdal and Beis Masechta Tainus, as Menachem Mendel Ezra said. The point is that there's sometimes a Yid who has koiches and he can't bring out his Indian unless you give him a shake. But that's in the tzad shlila, in the negative side, yeah? But just like you have in tzad shlili, also in tzad chiyuv. And that's the union of Hilu. Okay, so now let me give you, now that I told you the first story, I'm going to tell you the second story. The second story you just don't realize that you know it. Okay? You're Lubavitcher boys, so you learned Chassidus, and when it comes Lag Ba'emer, you learn Maimorim of Lag Ba'emer. One of the standard Maimorim of Lag Ba'emer is the Maimer about Hini Matayv Manoim Shevazachim Yim Yochid. We had a Fabrengen Lag Ba'emer, remember? Tuesday Lag Ba'emer. And I asked you, what's the Lubavitch? The whole world sings Bari Yechoy, and Vamartam Kelechoy, and Amar Abba Kiva, all these Nugunim Yerushalayim. Right? What's the Chabad Nugin for Lag Ba'emer? Hini Matev Manoim Shevazachim Yochid. You have a slow one, you have a fast one, and that's it. Hini Matev Manoim Shevazachim Yochid. What is the connection between Hini Matev Manoim Shevazachim Yochid Lag Ba'emer? A story in Zayir. So rather it comes to Shaila, there's a lot of stories in Zayir. What do you pick up this Maisa? So the Rebbe once said, because it's a story in Zayir about Abbas Yisrael, which is the tchuna of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, that, as the Gemara says, the Rebbe mentioned it many times, that when Rab Shimon Bar Yochai came out of the cave, his first comment was, is there anything in the world that needs to be corrected, and I'll correct it. And the Rebbe explains that Shimon's Inyan was the Inyan of V'Hafta Lecha Mech, was very dedicated to the Inyan of Abbas Yisrael. The story in the Zohar is that once upon a time the world needed rain. So they came to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, they should mispalel for rain. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was sitting with his Talmidim, and they came in that asked that Rashbi should be mispalel for Geshem. But before that, a chance to say anything. They didn't say a word yet. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai began to Dadish, Chassidus, Kabbalah, Zohar, on the pasuk Hine Matevu Manoyim Shevas Acham Gam Yochid. And he explained that Kabbalah Hine Matev, and the Zohar says it started raining. They never even asked him. That's right. This is the story in the Zohar. But in the Zohar there's a funny detail. What's the funny detail? That when the people came in to ask Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that he should daven for rain, before they had a chance to ask him, the Talmidim began to flatter him. Talmidei Rashbi began to flatter him. You know what's the English word flatter? Chanufa. Well, chanufa is sheket, right? This was not sheket. But nevertheless, they began to flatter him. One of them called him Shabbos. One of them called him one of the most controversial zayers of all, Man Pnei Oden Avaya Dor Ashbi. Right? They gave him compliments. And then Ashbi started saying Teira, and it started to rain. So when you learn the Maimori Chassidus on Lag Ba'emer, based on this Zohar, there's a lot of directions. In other words, the Maimed is the same, the Dibur HaMaschal is the same, but the direction of the Maimed changes from version to version. Some of the Maimorim discuss Hine Matev. Some of the Maimorim discuss the idea of making it rain through Torah. Like B'klal, when you want to make it rain, you have to do Tefillah. And Rabbi Shimon Yochai rain through Torah because it was a higher Madrega of Torah. And then they talk about the contrast between Cheni HaMagal, who made it rain through Tefillah, as the Mishnah says in Tainis, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who made it rain through Torah. The difference between bringing down a bracha through Tefillah and bringing down a bracha through Torah. But some of the Maimorim go in this direction. What's this business about flattering Rashbi? You need rain. You send the Mishlachas to the Gadol Ador, to the Nasi Ador, to the Tzaddik Ador. And he wasn't Nasi Ador, he was Nasi Adoris, right? The Ashbi was, those people who was Shemer and Kol HaDeir, he was Shemer on his day, and the days before him, and even the days after Ashbi. Yechani lived as Kol HaElam Kulim and Adin. His generation, earlier generations, later generations, all kinds of conditions, as the Gemara speaks, the greatness of Rashbi. The greatness of Rashbi. What are they flattering him? So the answer is that the Shimba Yechoy needs the flattery, quote, to come down from where he is to have a shaykhs with Geshem. The flattery is not chas v'sholem chanufa, will make you feel good, you'll give us something. The flattery is that where Rab Shimon Bar Yochai is, he has no shaykhs to Gashmias. He has no shaykhs to Geshem. So the flattery brings out a koyach from Rashbi, they should be able to bring Geshem. So this is my second story, right? The first story I told you was a negative story where they criticized the Alter Rebbe and it rained. Here they're flattering Rashbi. Both of these stories have a constant. That sometimes the tzaddik is very far removed from a certain inyan. And because they're very far removed from it, they can't bring it down. And you have to bring him closer to it. In one case, you bring him closer to Divrei Musar. In one case, you bring him closer to Divrei Shevach. But tzazei, that's how it happens. Okay? And that's the pshat, what says in our mind, the word halal. Why do you have to praise the Eibishter? The Eibishter is everything. But the Eibishter is also nothing. The Eibishter is everything, the Eibishter ain't safe. And the Eibishter is nothing because in ain't safe, none of the midas are specific, are pronounced. The Eibishter gave us a koyach of being mishabeach the Eibishter. To praise him. Agadol, Agibir, Aneira, whatever praise we use. If and when we praise the Eibishter, the quote is Rufen mirarois di mida di koyach. When you praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you bring out a certain koyach from a hidden state to a revealed state. And koyachel, it's the basis for the bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just like by tzaddikim that are daimim lebeiram, you say that you have to sometimes move a tzaddik from here to here. There should be a bracha. In one place, it's give him a shake through a criticism. In other cases, give him a shake through a praise. The same is true by the Eibishter. There's a sugya in Chassidus which is called shvachim. In this maim it is called halal, and in Chassidus it's called shvachim, that in order to get the Eibishter to praise, you have to bring the koyach out. And this is the answer to the question. The question that the Rivosh asked, that remained unanswered, is Mi machnis esana b'kol zah alei tev l'espalul stam. Why do you have to be mechavan b'shem, daven like a child? And the teretz is because it's not going to work. If you want the Eibush to give you a bracha b'furetes, you have to be mamshech hamida. Not because chas v'shalom the Eibush can't give it to you, but because there's a process by which the Eibush and the world meet, and the brachas of the Eibush come, so to speak, from heaven to earth. And this is through shvachim. And just like you have this shevach by a person, by Reb Shimon, by Yochai, Koyachol, you have the shevach also by the Eibush. And I'm going to stop the shir now. I'm just going to finish with the following point, and I'll probably come back to this point tomorrow again. In the Maimorim talk about shevach, they say there's a difference between the shevach of Rashbi and the shevach of the Eibush. And the difference is, when they praised Rashbi, before they gave him the praise, he already had the midah, but it was hidden and had to reveal it. By the Eibishter, before they gave him the praise, he didn't have the midah at all. And by praising him, they're actually creating the midah. Okay? Questions or comments? Okay, I don't know who's in charge, but you put yourself in rooms and answer the questions. I wrote a bunch of questions. I wrote 15 questions. But the only 14 questions, the only ones you could answer is 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and that's it really. 5 you can't answer. You could probably answer 7 and 8, but you can answer 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, please put yourself into rooms.
Rabbi, can I make you host?
Make me host, but the shaila is, but you put people into rooms first, then you make.
I'm ready, kid.
Oh, okay. Shalom Ben, who are you learning with?
Nah, I'm waiting for him in the Zoom.
Oh, Eliezer Tzvi, who are you learning with?
Yeah, aber ich glaube, it's fine.
Have to be, I did put you together and Chaim left.
Oh, shoot. Alright, fine.
Believe it or not.
Wait, thank you.
Okay. So Rabbi, make you host, and then could you put me in room 5?
You got it.